Welcome to another Starman live stream. Duncan, let's hi. Thanks for watching the live before and for the, was it you that gave me a super chat before? Thanks very much, Sam. Samantha H. And who else have we got? So we've got 19 people watching. I'm live on a Sunday. I always like to try and do this on a Sunday. I've missed a few lately, all sorts of reasons. But I'm back again now at the normal time when I like to be here. Now, I normally have a quiz. Hi, Astro guy. I normally have a quiz, but I haven't wrote a quiz down. So what I'll do is I'll just do one off my head in the second half of this live stream. So I will do an Astro quiz, but it's all going to be coming out of my head. So we'll have to see how we go. Hi, Sheila M. Samantha H. So, in fact, we've got a nice moon tonight. We've got quite a big moon. Jacqueline Moore, hi. I noticed that when I finished my live stream on my other channel. I noticed that the moon is starting to get very big. You might notice that the moon is starting to brighten up in the sky now. We'll have a full moon. Anthony Goodwin, hi. From Fran, Anthony and Fran in Staining. Yeah, just down the road, not far from here, Staining. It's like a suburb of Blackpool, isn't it, Staining? So the moon is, I think the moon is going to be full on the 18th. Yes, it is a busy day, Duncan. Hi, Scott Tarbley. We've got a few people joining me on this channel over from my other channel. Of course, if you're new to this one, this is an astronomy channel where I talk about astrophotography, how to take pictures of the night sky, how to take pictures of the moon. The last video, I showed you how to take a picture of the crescent moon. I also show you how to take pictures of the Milky Way and things like that. And I also let you know what you can see in the sky at any time of the year. So, yeah, so there you go. That's what this is all about. Hi, Midlands girl. We've got 28 people watching. Let's see if we can get a record number of people watching this live stream. Hit the like button. I had 900, I think it was 942 people watching me live on my other channel. Can you burn in that? If only I could get that many people on this channel. I don't think it's going to happen, but we might be able to get, if we can get more than 60 people watching, I will be very happy. So let's see if everybody hits the like button, share the video, tell all your friends. Oh, Stephen's on. He's doing the Astro. He knows everything. Well, I do. And you know why I know what I know about astronomy and space is all because in the last 12 years ago, I joined a club, an astronomy society. It was Blackpool and District Astronomical Society. Naturally, I joined the local one. I'm not going to join the one down in Preston, although Preston do have one. I'm not sure if they have any up Fleetwood Way. They might do, but it was natural that I would join an astronomical society. And that was the biggest reason why I ended up, thanks to O'Neill, getting to where I am and knowing all the things I do. It's a combination of watching YouTube videos, reading magazines. Hi, Leon Corns. Is it Leon Corns? At least the chats are a bit easier to read on this, because when I was doing my video before, the messages were coming on the screen and going off straight away. There was no way I could read them. At least on this one, I've got a chance to read them. So yeah, I say to everybody, and I'll say it again, that if you're interested in astronomy and you happen to have a local club, hi Paul, I would highly recommend that you join it. Go down and see what, now, some people, a lot of what I find is, hi to Martin from Emma Beckhouse, hi Martin. What I find is that sometimes when people go to, have you ever been somewhere, you've been to some regular club, like a photography club, or yes, it does, Crispy. It looks amazing, doesn't it? And you go to a club and you get there and there's someone talking and they're really boring, and you think, oh, that's a load of rubbish, that, you know, and you put it off and you don't go back again. Don't just give them one chance. Give them, go back again. Give them, because there are times when you might go to one of these clubs and there's hardly anybody there and there's no atmosphere, and they might have some guy that sends you to sleep. Well, that won't be me. Hopefully I wouldn't send you to sleep. If you saw me, you'd be back every week. So I wish I could sit down and watch me. I'm just joking. But yeah, you might You might be a bit disappointed. Sometimes you might just end up there on a bad day. But I kept going, and slowly but surely, I picked up a lot of hints, tips, and information. And it took a long time. It took years. I would say, it took about 2 years before I started to, started to get to know the sky and know how to take pictures of it. About 2 years, maybe even longer than that. Could have been 3 years. I was still making daft mistakes even then. But now, 12 years later, it's a lot better. Can you remember the very first photo you took of the moon 12 years ago? Well, the first photo of the moon wasn't taken 12 years ago. The first photo I took of the moon was probably taken, I'm going back to the 1990s on film. I took a photograph. In fact, I might show you if I've got it on here. I'm not sure if I've got it on my Flickr account. I'll have a look. I used to take double exposures. This is, before digital, 42 people watching. Everybody hit like, hit the thumbs up. Let's see if we can get this video. I want to see if we can get more than 60 people watching. Before the digital days, we used to use film. Yeah. And I've got one there. I've got a film here. Look, this is it now. Can anybody remember this? Look at that. That's film. And there are 24. Look at that, 24 pictures. I'll have a look, Sheila, and see if I can find it. It'd be quite interesting to look it up. But I do have a very interesting picture of the the lights are getting nicer, aren't they? Hi, Maria. Maria says she's late. That's all right, Maria. So yeah, that's what we used to use to take pictures. Now, I used to take pictures and I used to get the moon in a picture, and the moon used to be massive compared to the rest of the picture. Now, how do you do that when you're using film? Well, there was a way to do it. My camera used to take double exposures. You'd take one exposure for the scene, and then you'd put a long lens on, you'd put a telephoto lens on, and then you'd swing your lens round to the moon, and you'd take a quick picture of the moon, and that moon would then be imprinted on. If you did it right, you had to get the exposure right, that would be then on your photograph. And that's how we used to do double exposures in the olden days. I'll just see if I've got I don't know if it's on Flickr, I'll see, but I did do a double exposure, 49 watching, hit the like button, of the moon, and I think it actually won the competition at Lytham St Anne's Photographic Society, because I used to go to Lytham St Anne's Photographic Society. I haven't got it on here, I'm afraid, but that's how we used to take pictures of the moon. You just lose your long lens, and if you wanted to do the fancy thing where you get the big moon and all that sort of stuff, I'd play around and use the camera to do that. Hi, Frank. Frank's in the room. Jacqueline, I remember using them, says Jacqueline. Hi, Stephen. I'm thinking of getting a Nikon Z6. Yes, they are very good, Space Invader. I think they're better than mine because mine is a very high resolution, and the Z6 has a lower resolution. I think it's 24 megapixels, and I think that's better for Astro. I don't think Astro really needs loads of megapixels, not like during the day. I think this suit, I think the Z6 is a very good camera for night as well. It takes very good pictures. I've used one. I've actually used the Z6. I've done a video a couple of years ago. If you look back, you'll see I did a video comparison of the Z6 versus, I think it was versus my camera, just to see what they were like together. But yeah, I do actually think that the cameras with low resolution are better for Astro. Yes, this is not a prem, guys. Yeah, it's not a prem. I am actually live here. It's about 8:10. Is it March the 12th? I don't know. I can't keep up with the dates at the moment. I will be doing a quiz after. The quiz will be off the top of my head, but I've got a drink here as well because last week I had a problem. I was croaking last week. And old enough to remember the film. The problem was that it was expensive because every time you press the shutter, you paid. Digital is free. Well, it's not free, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than film. The only problem with digital, the main problem with digital is that we take too many photographs. Do you not think we take too many? In the olden days, when you took a photograph on film, you had to make sure that was going to be a good photograph. tried to not to cut people's heads off and things like that, you know. Well, that used to happen, didn't it? That used to happen because some cameras used to have a viewfinder. In fact, this one here is an old disc camera. Can you see this here? This camera has a viewfinder up here. Can you see? This is what you look through, this little hole here. The lens is down there. Now, some cameras, it was easy to get people in the frame through the viewfinder, but then you'd find that because the actual lens is down here compared to the viewfinder, you might cut people's heads off, you know. That was a common problem back in the olden days when we used to use film. Look at that, a disc camera. It's actually got a disc in it. I can't open the back of this. You never know, there could be some pictures on here. So I might have to see about developing this. There you are. In fact, you know the disc cameras, here's an interesting thing as well. I'll just talk to you about these, the old cameras. The disc cameras, did anyone have a disc camera or anything similar to that? They were very different. I think it was Kodak this is a Kodak one. I think it was Kodak that invented the disc camera. I think it was, because they were very big at the time, Kodak. The biggest camera, I think they were the biggest camera firm in the world at that time. I think they were, yeah. They're actually defunct now. It's just barely a name now. So the thing about the disc camera was it was a different way of film. It's very slim. You could quite easily fit that in your pocket. Whereas with a film camera, they weren't so thin. You know, it was a different design. It was dead easy to load. You just plonk the disc in the back. There's no pulling of the, you don't have to, you know, with the film, you have to pull that and you have to get that to land on the sprockets, and you had to pull it across, and then it would drag it across, and it was a little bit fiddly. Some people could not handle that, and what they did was Kodak brought out the disc camera. Now the problem I have with the disc camera, I'll tell you the problem I have. 51 people watching. Hit the like button. We want to get to 60 people. Come on, let's get some more people watching this live stream. We've got 52. Hit the like button. Tell your friends. I'm on till 9 o'clock, so we're not on that. We're not on all night. So you'll learn a little bit about cameras and a little bit about astronomy as well. I'll come to that in a minute, Ram fan, about the APS, because it's very interesting. So the disc cameras, the problem was, I found with the disc cameras, I never had one at the time. I've got one now just purely for, you know, this is just like a vintage camera for me, just to put on the shelf. Yeah, but they had a very, very tiny negative. You know the negative that makes the actual picture? It was as big as your fingernail. In fact, it might have been a bit smaller than your little fingernail. It was a tiny, tiny negative. And when you blew that negative up, the pictures looked horrible. They were awful. The disc camera was bloody rubbish. It was rubbish. Excuse my French, but the disc camera was not a very good quality camera at all. The lenses were rubbish. I think this one's got like a, oh, you see that there? You can actually see the viewfinder there. Look, can you see? That's it, open now. So your viewfinder up here and the lens there. Yeah, the quality of the disc cameras were horrendous. They were awful quality. They were nowhere near as good as a 35mm, because the negative on a 35mm camera is a heck of a lot bigger than it was on a disc. Now, Ramfan asked a question before. He said, what about APS? Now, here's an interesting thing. In the 90s, I think it was the 90s, there was a new kind of film, and it wasn't 35mm. They started to bring out new cameras, and they were called Advanced Photo System, or APS, and it did away with this film. You see the way the film's coming out there? They actually had the cartridge just like that, but it was a little bit, I think it was a bit smaller, and all you had to do was put it in the camera, and the camera did the rest. And it even had all this fancy data backstore. You could record the time and all that sort of stuff. It was all on the film. It had like I mean, even this has got like a barcode on it. Can you see it's got a barcode on it that would tell certain cameras what the film was? So you didn't have to tell the camera what the film was. The APS was a more advanced way of doing of making this a bit less fiddly, because it was all contained within the cartridge. You didn't have to pull. Now, the interesting thing about APS is we still use the APS format today for digital cameras. If you've got, say, a Canon 3000D or a Canon 90D, one of the smaller Canon bodies, or a Nikon, you've got like a Nikon D7000, or a Nikon D3300, D5000, that sort of range. They use the same size frame as the APS frame. It was a lot smaller than 35mm. Yeah. So there you go. So the APS format, the size of the negative on the APS is still used today in the digital world. I bet you didn't know that. How many did not know that? If you buy a camera and it says APS-C format, that's where the APS-C comes from. It means Advanced Photo System. I'm not sure what the C means actually. Canon and Nikon have two slightly different ones. Canon is a little bit smaller. So if I take a picture on an APS-C camera compared to my full frame camera, I'm going to get 50% more. I'm going to get 50% less field of view because the sensor is smaller. And if it's on a Canon, it's a bit smaller still. I think it's 1.6, so 1.5 times crop. Or on a Canon, it's a 1.6 times crop compared to the full frame. I'll tell you what, I could talk about this all night. Malk Angus, I've got a Canon 750D. So yours will have the Canon APS. I think it's Canon APS. They call it Canon APS, which means that it will have a 1.6 crop compared to a Canon 5D or a Canon 1D. You know, the really big ones, the 5D Mark IV and all that sort of thing. Your camera will have a 1.6 focal length crop. So if you put a lens off a 5D, a 50mm lens onto that, it'll work like an 80mm. So it'll basically crop in. It won't give you more focal length. It will just crop all the edges and you'll see the bit in the middle. That's how that works. It just basically crops the 1.6. That's it. It's 1.5 on a Nikon. Kodak made marvellous film, but junk cameras, yeah, I think you're right, Joe. They never really made a decent camera. You know, like a classic camera, a really good quality camera. They made some, yeah, they were very good at film. Yeah, they were good at film. I'll give them that. Julie, I have a Canon Epoca with the big side flash. I think I seem to remember that one, the Canon Epoca. It was a type. Was it a British camera? I can't remember. Just bought an APS camera just as they were disappearing. Never used it. Yeah, I did have one. I had a Nikon Pro Near. It was a compact camera, and it was the APS. It was the APS format. So there you go. So the APS stands for Advanced Photo System, and it might have been invented by Kodak. I don't know who invented it, but it was basically a way of extending the life of film, because I think they could see digital coming. It was a way of extending the life of 35mm film, even though it was a lot smaller. They found a way to make it last a bit longer because digital was coming along at the same time. When Duncan Letts, what's the oldest camera you own? I've got an old Zorki. I think it's from the 50s or 60s. That's probably the oldest camera I own. So when the APS format came out, we've got 60 people watching. 60 people. Hit the like button. If you just joined us, hit the like button. We've got 60 people watching. Midlands girl, she's got a D850. Wow. What a camera. A D850, really? I've got one of those. It's amazing. That's not a cheap camera at all. So I don't have any Advanced Photo System films, but I'll have to see if I can get some and also get a camera just for nostalgia, really. So the Advanced Photo System came along just as the digital was starting to come in. You know, they had the digital coming in. We had Kodak making digital cameras. They were really, really slow. They had no screen on them. You could only take one picture every 1 minute and then wait for it to warm up before you could take another one, but they were coming. I'm talking about the sort of late 90s now. Sort of mid to late 90s, the APS-C cut format. People were still using film and it was still the number one. And I would say that digital didn't really get going, didn't probably become the dominant format until well into the 2000s, maybe about 2005 before digital started to take over. It doesn't seem that long ago, really, does it? You know, I think I'm sort of thinking about right there. I know I was one of the early people onto digital. So there you go, yeah. So I always thought Fujifilm was the best. Well, actually, Leon Combs, I think you're probably right. I think Fujifilm was actually thought to be, it was very, very popular. Fujivelvia was probably the top film that anybody made. So I think you're right there. I think Kodak made good film. Ilford, very good at black and white. They're still doing Ilford, they're still going Ilford as well. But certainly Fuji they were probably the premium brand for film. They were very, very good. And I used to get, I used to get films. You know how this film here, can you see how it's ISO 200? Well, I used to know a guy that took pictures at the Gazette, and he used to give me film, and it was multi-ISO, multi. It was ISO invariant. I think Frank might know something about that. It was a multi-speed, and it didn't matter how you took the picture, you could get the picture at the end. It didn't matter if it was underexposed or overexposed. Malt says he's got an OM10. It would still come out on this multi. Trying to get 24mm and ripping it. I lost 2 rolls on my wedding reception. That's not good, don't UK. The Abandoned Hunter, hi. Jacqueline Moore. Have a flash bulb on the top. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the flash bulb that you used to use. And then you had to turn it round to get your other one. The old flash bulbs in the olden days that used to, I think they were dangerous actually, weren't they, those old flash bulbs? I've got a set of them somewhere. In fact, I might have some in this box here. I've got a box here. And I think I might have I've got some old slides. Slides. My first camera had the flash bulb, says Sheila. Hi, Farang Travels. Yeah, we've got 60 people watching. So I did say I'd be happy if I get to 60 people. So if you've just joined us, hit the like button. We want to get the likes up. Oh, up to 61 people. We've got 52 likes. We need a few more. So hit the like button. Tell everybody that we're on here in Blackpool. Well, I'm in the studio. The Astro studio. Who can get good old Kodachrome? I used to get Kodachrome. Was it Kodachrome 25? And you know, I used to use it to take pictures at night, which sounds a bit weird because 25 is a very, very slow speed. But I always used to use the camera on a tripod. So it didn't matter that it was very slow. The slower the film, the more finer the picture, the less grain. So if you're using a 200 speed film compared to say a 50 speed film, the 200 speed film will be faster. It will enable you to take quicker exposures, but it will be more grainy. You will see more grain. And that's what the film speed is all about. And we still use the ISOs today on the digital cameras. We still use that ISO. I miss the excitement of going to let you develop photos. Yeah, so do I. I used to love that. Yeah, I really did. I used to love going to get the pictures. I've actually got some pictures. This is what you used to get. You used to get them in, look at that there, look. Prints by Kodak, look. There, look. These are actual pictures that I used to take. Yeah, how about that? Look, this is what I used to do. Long before digital, I used to do light trails. Look at that light trail. Isn't that amazing? No digital involved. Yeah, I've even got a picture of my old car. Look at that. A picture of my old car taken on film. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Yeah. There's a picture of a tram captured on film. Yeah. That's what we used to have to do. Oh, you'll like this. This is a picture of me. There's me in and a dog. 64 people watching. Hit the like button if you've just joined. Sorry, I'm showing you an old picture here. We're supposed to be talking about space, but I've gone off topic. But we will get back onto it, don't you worry. So there's me in the mid-90s. Did I do my own lab? But yes, I had a dark room. Yeah, I did have a dark room. And I had an enlarger. And we used to do dodging and burning, you know, where you put your wavy hat. You could do. It was amazing the stuff that you could do in the dark room. You could really do a lot of jiggery pokery. You know, we have Photoshop now, which makes it all so much easier. Nice car worth good money now. Yeah, it probably would be, wouldn't it? Yeah. Remember the quality control stickers? I do, yeah. I used to get them all the time when all my pictures came out dark. I ordered wedding photos and got them last Wednesday. Ah. So we've got over 60 people watching. Ramfan can't beat the sound of a motor winding the film on. No, no, I used to love that, and they still use it. They still, whenever they do a sound effect of a camera, it tends to be one with a motor drive, even though we don't use the motor drive anymore. We used to love. I wanted to get that motor drive that wound the picture on even faster and faster and faster. It's like, I think the fastest one I ever had was about 2.5 frames per second. It got to. But then again, you see these professional ones at the time, they'd have these big, massive motor drives stuck underneath the camera, and they'd be going like that. Dodging and burning. Haven't thought about those techniques for years. Yes, Jay, dodging and burning. But not only that, I know people that used to have templates. What do you call not templates? Well, they might be templates, like a sort of template that put over the print, and it would be in the general sort of design of the print, and they'd be able to use parts of it and block parts of it out. And this guy used to take pictures inside churches, and where the windows are really bright and the shadows are very dark, he'd put this thing over the picture, enlarge the picture onto the frame, and then he'd be able to dodge little bits just by using this frame. It was amazing. It was absolute. The way he used to do it, that's the way we had to adjust photographs in the old days. We had to do it in the darkroom, and it was amazing what you could do. It was the talent of some people was amazing. It's so much easier now with Photoshop, but you could tinker with photographs back then. You could do it. Northern Lights, saying the chance of seeing the Northern Lights. I know I did get an orange alert before. What was the name of the photography shop in the corner of Church and Grosvenor Street in Blackpool? I don't remember that one, Andrew. I remember Burrells. I think they were on Lytham Road, and I also remember Abbey Photographic on Clifton Street in town. I used to go in there quite a lot, and then they had Jessop's, of course, and there was loads of other ones. There were so many camera shops. There was loads and loads of them. Coming up to past now. I'm going to do a quiz in the second half. I think because it's all going to be off my head because I haven't got any answers. I didn't get time to write anything down. Got to take a water. I don't think my voice is right yet, True print. Remember getting photos developed with True print? Yeah. There was a lot of brands. I'm surprised, but Max Spielmann were always one of them, and they're still going. I'm really surprised that Max Spielmann are still going because they are one of the original, the original firms that used to develop your photographs, and they are still going, yeah. And Jessop's are still going as well, although they were bought out, weren't they? So they're mostly online, but you do see them in some of the cities. So I'm going to get back onto astronomy now. Quiz is coming up very soon. Bonus print, yeah. Konica, yeah. Konica are still going, but Konica are now Konica Minolta. And I think Konica Minolta, I don't think they make cameras anymore. I think they just make printers. So there's a lot of brands out there now. Ricoh still make cameras. So they're a brand that used to make cameras and still do. There's quite a few brands that are still going strong. Olympus, of course, Panasonic, should I say Panasonic are more... Panasonic never made film cameras, but Leica, who Panasonic... I think Panasonic bought Leica, or the partnership with Leica. Leica are a very, very exclusive brand of camera, and Leica have a partnership with Panasonic. So that's how they got started, by using the Leica system for their cameras. 66 people watching. Hit the like button. Can we get to 70? Ricoh is now a part of Pentax. Yeah, a lot of them have come together because, they were probably big firms at one time, but now the competition is so fierce now that a lot of firms have to come together. It's the only way that they can survive. I read today that next week is Mars week. I don't know about that. Oh, by the way, the helicopter on Mars is still going. Yeah, we're about a year since that helicopter took off. I think a year since that helicopter, the helicopter that they sent up to Mars, it's still working. Can you believe that? I thought it would crash on the first... I thought it would crash on the first outing, but yeah, the helicopter's still going, I've heard. So if you saw my last video, I've got some pictures now. I've been making. I just want to show you this. This is my diary. I've got a diary. Now this is my diary. Now look in my diary. If you get a free Hasselblad, lots on the moon left by astronauts. Yeah. The astronauts used Hasselblad cameras, and they also used modified Nikon cameras to take photographs on the moon. I can't believe that it's a year. Yeah, have you heard of a scientist called Francis Butcher who proved there was water on the moon? I don't think I have, actually. So can you see, I've got my diary here. Now, I have got a list in here of moon rises and moon sets and Milky Way times. I've listed them all. I've sort of got up to May. I need to carry on working for the rest of the year. But this will tell me whenever I can get a good picture of the Milky Way, or whenever I can get a nice full moon or a crescent moon. I've got it all wrote down in here. So I shouldn't miss a thing. The only thing that can beat me is the weather. So I've got all these red things here are all telling me when the Milky Way is possible to photograph. Now, the interesting thing at this time of year, we are close to the equinox, the spring equinox. Now, what happens at this time of year is we get to see both sides of the Milky Way. We get to see the winter Milky Way over Orion in the evening. So if you're out in the evening, as early as you can, about an hour and a half after sunset, as soon as it gets dark, look towards the south, look towards Orion, and if you're somewhere really dark, you'll see the Milky Way coming right across over Orion. And it should look something like this. I mean, this is a panorama, but it'll look, can you see there? There's Orion. Can you see this glow going above Orion there? That's what I mean. That's the winter Milky Way. And it goes right to the other side of the photograph there, but I didn't quite fit it into the top of the photograph because my lens wasn't really wide enough. But this is what I mean. That glow there above Orion is the winter Milky Way. Now, the interesting thing is about this time of year is that if you then wait until around about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you will then see the other side of the Milky Way rising in the east. And it looks really, really spectacular. That's the thing about this time of year. We get a chance to see both sides. And the galactic band is low. It is low down in the evening, and it's also low down in the morning, but we're looking a different direction. So we get to see. So in the evening, we're looking out of the galaxy towards the fainter parts of the Milky Way. And in the morning, if you wait up till about 3 or 4 o'clock, you'll start to see that band rise. You'll start to see it. And then we're looking more into the Milky Way because we're looking the opposite direction to what we're looking in the evening. And we'll see, you might be lucky enough. If you live further south, it's probably better. If you live on the south coast, you might be able to see Sagittarius. It's a bit tough for us up north. Now, there is a slight problem there. Once we can do this right up into April. You can see the Milky Way in the evening, although Orion does move out of the way. It tends to get lost in the sunset once we get into April. But once we get into April, we then start to see the Milky Way rise higher in the morning. You've got a better chance of seeing Sagittarius in April. It gets higher and higher. Now, the slight problem for us in the UK, especially if you live in the north, is that we also get the twilight catching up. And what happens is once we go past April into May, we then lose our dark skies altogether. Certainly for us up here in the north. You might not lose them on the south coast, but you'll lose most of that dark sky that you would get in the winter, because what would happen is it would only get dark for so long, and then we have to go through all summer, and then we have to wait until about August before we get our dark skies back. Midlands girl, what? Midlands girl says she sent something to me. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I'll have a look and see if I can find that. Orion's belt is directly above me, says Malk Angus. When you say directly above you, are you on the equator? 59 people watching. We do have 62 likes, which is good. So it's a great time of year to take Milky Way panoramas like that. Can you see? In the evening, you have to be quick. Now, at the moment, we've got the moon around, but when the moon moves out of the way again, in another week, you'll have a chance to take pictures like this. Now, I've been trying to get this picture, and I want to try and perfect it with more of the galaxy at the top, timing it with this zodiacal light. Can you see this zodiacal light band here? Isn't it amazing? That zodiacal light there, and that's absolutely amazing. I want to get a panorama of the Milky Way with Orion and that band of zodiacal light there. It'll be the perfect picture, and I've got a wider lens now to do it. I showed my lens on the last live stream. Photos don't do the Milky Way justice to scale this. Yeah, it's nice to see it. It is really, really nice to see it. Can you explain why the Milky Way looks curved? Well, yeah, Leon, the reason why it looks curved is because of it's a lens, you know, it's just the panorama effect. If you take a panorama of anything, and this over here is south, and this on this side is north. So the left of the picture is north, the right of the picture is south. So anything that you take a picture of is going to look like that. You know, anything that arches across the sky, it's just the panorama. It doesn't look like that to your eye. Well, it does, but you're not seeing it as the camera sees it. When you stack all those photos together, you end up with this like a fancy panorama. It looks like a rainbow of stars, doesn't it? It looks amazing. Mal Kangas says Betelgeuse is getting dimmer. It did go dim a couple of years ago, didn't it? Remember when it went really dim? We thought it was going to blow up. Yes, I have taken some good pictures of rainbows, haven't I? I took it on Derwent water, Jacqueline. Derwent water. Look at that, isn't it amazing? Look at the reflection. Now, when I go back there, if I was to go back there in another couple of weeks, the galactic band will be lower down, so we'll be able to see more of this galactic band because it'll be lower, and I'll also try to get this glow in between, the zodiacal light glow, and that's the picture that I want. I'll have a wider lens as well, so there you go. Right, yeah, okay. Shall I do a quiz now? Because we're coming up to 20. I'll tell you what, I'm getting really warm in here. It's absolutely roasting in here. I'm going to have to turn the heating off. I am roasting. I think I need another drink. I'm glad I've got my drink with me today because I was struggling last week. Was it last week or the week before? I was croaking my way through because I wasn't really that well. But 64 watching, hit the like button. Don't forget to hit subscribe as well. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel. Look at some of my old videos. I tell you how to take pictures of space, the Milky Way. I also tell you how to take pictures of the moon. The last video I showed you how to take a picture of the moon, the crescent moon, how to get a picture of the moon and reveal all the craters, and also how to take a picture of the crescent moon and reveal that Earthshine effect where you get to see the whole disk of the moon. But I just want to give you an example now of the type of shot that you can get in the morning. Now, I've showed you the panorama before. That's an evening shot at this time of year. I now want to show you, you've seen this before, this is what you can get at this time of year in the morning. You see that? That there is what we call the summer Milky Way. And if you look towards the left-hand side of your screen, that is where the Sagittarius region is, and that is the brightest part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is a panorama again. It's a 220-degree panorama from one side to the other, so it's more than 180 degrees. And on the left-hand side, can you see how the galactic band, how it comes up from the right-hand side there, and as it gets towards the middle, it starts to become very, very clumpy. Can you see? They're very, very structured. You know, there's dark lanes in there, there's dust in there, there's even a broken bit here. Can you see there's a broken bit there? It's like as if it's broke off. And this is the kind of shot that you can get in the mornings right now, as long as you time it with the moon. I mean, with the moon being around at the moment, it's not possible at the moment. We need to wait a little while for the moon to go around. But you can do that this time of year, and you can also take that shot that I took at Derwent Water as well. You just take them at different times. So this one here is simply taken in the evening, whereas the other one was taken at around 4 o'clock in the morning. So that just gives you an idea of what you can do. You can also do this one as well, the tree. You can do that as well. Yeah, same again. It's the galactic band rising in the morning. So there you go. That's what you can do at this time of year. Right, okay. I think we need to do a quiz, don't we? So I'm going to have to think of some questions. So the first question is going to be, how many questions shall we ask? Shall we have 10 questions? Is that a stat photo? They're not stat, it's just a panorama. So I've taken about 12 pictures, bang, 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 and I've stacked them all together. I've merged them. It's not a stack picture. There's no stacking involved. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sheila and Leon. You know, I took that about 4 years ago, and I've not really. I'm determined. I'm determined to take a better shot this year. I've planned it all out. So let's see what I can do, shall we? And I'll see if I can do a video on it while I'm at it as well. So right, on with the quiz. I think who's ready for the quiz? Watching it on the big TV with my brother, and I'll get him to hit the subscribe button. Nice one. Yeah, we've got 62 likes. So don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I'm now going to do a quiz. And the first question is, what time of the night, or what time, around what time would you expect to see a thin crescent moon? Can anybody tell me at what time would you expect to see a thin crescent, waxing crescent moon? A waxing crescent moon, I need to say waxing. What time would you expect to see a thin, waxing crescent moon? A bit like the picture that I took in a recent video. So Leon's got it. Malkanga says end of the month. Well, you know, you might just see one at the end of the month. Midlands girl, you're a little bit off there, Midlands girl, between 1 and 2 a.m. Unless sunset happens to be around about midnight where you are. Maybe. Donk UK says 7 p.m. You get to see a slim waxing crescent moon not long after sunset, because if it's a waxing moon, it means it's not far from new, which means it's moving round our side of the sun. It's on our side of the sun. It's in between us and the sun, and we only get to see a little slither of it because it's moving around. So the evening is when you get to see, the early evening, around about as soon as the sun goes down. That's when you start to see the, this is what I mean. Can you see that there? You can still see the twilight in the sky. And there's a 5% lit waxing crescent moon. And you might even be able to see that earth shining. So that's what I mean. You can see the twilight there. Right, okay. Question number 2. When would you expect to see a waxing? In fact, I don't think it matters either way. A waxing, and either a waxing or a waning first quarter moon. I need to think about that because these questions are coming off my head, by the way. Sunset. We'll put it this way. Let's say the sun has just set. Where would either a waning or a waxing first quarter or half moon be? Where would you expect to see that in the sky? At sunset or sunrise. Let's say it's at sunset or sunrise. Where would a half moon be at sunset or sunrise? That might be easier. I think it's a bit confusing, this question. I'm making it confusing. Whereabouts in the sky would you see it? Yeah, I think it's my fault. I'm not asking the question very easily, am I? You know, when you have a first quarter moon, you get a dead-on half moon. So half of it is lit up. From our perspective, we get to see half of the moon lit up. So it's like a perfect sort of segment. You would see that high in the sky, high in the south at sunset. You would see a waxing half moon high in the sky at sunset. You would see a waning half moon high in the sky at sunrise. So you would see it high in the sky, 90 degrees away from the sun. That is when you would see a waxing or waning. I don't think I asked the question very easily, did I? I think I made it dead confusing, didn't I? So that's the problem here. So I didn't write the questions down. So so there you go. Depends where you are on Earth, says Midland School. Yeah, need to keep an eye on these aurora alerts, because there could be some aurora. Why? What is? No, the reason a moon is called waxing when it's getting towards full. You know, at the moment, if you go outside, you might see the moon in the sky, and it's around about, I don't know, is it about 80% full or something like that? If you go out tomorrow, it'll be about 85 or 86%. And eventually, in a few days' time, it'll be full. And that's when it's waxing. Now, once it's gone past full, it then starts to wane. So you then start to see the moon go dark on the other side, because it's now going around. It's going around us, going to the other side. And then it starts to wane. So then you have a waning moon, and it does the same cycle all the way back to when it gets back to the sun, and then you call it a new moon again. And that's why you call them a waxing and waning. I think a waxing comes from, I think it's an old term, waxing, you know, goes back to the old times. Yeah, so basically waxing is when the moon is heading towards full, and waning is when the moon is heading away from full. So there you go. Right. I've now got to think of another question. Yeah, so there you go. Right, okay, so here's another question on the moon. I'm going to keep asking questions on the moon, and hopefully this one will be a bit easier. Let's say you're watching the sunset, and there happens to be a full moon due. Where would you expect to see the full moon? At sunset, if a full moon is forecast, if it's a full moon. Why does the moon look massive sometimes and smaller on other days? It's more to do with the way you see it. When you see the moon low down, you're more likely to see it big. I mean, the moon does come closer to us. It gets about 13% bigger when it's closer than when it's further away. But that doesn't really make a lot of difference by eye. It doesn't. It's more to do with how low down it is. And when you connect it with the landscape, that's how you see it. Leon's got it. Yeah, that's right. On the opposite horizon. Yeah, Paul Thorpe got it as well. You would see that if it was a night of a full moon, right, and you're watching the sun go down over there, it's natural that the full moon will be rising opposite the sun because it's full. It's completely opposite the sun. That's why it's a full moon. You're not going to see the sunset over there and the full moon up there. That's not going to happen. You would see a half moon at sunset straight ahead, but a full moon would have to be opposite, on the opposite part of the sky. I'm looking forward to this full moon. I'm coming up actually. I've just checked now in my book when the full moon is for March. It's on, I think it's on the 18th. I've got it marked down there. Where are we there? March the 18th, full moon. I've put 3 dots in there, which tells me that there's 3 chances to get a picture of the moon on each day, whether it's going down or whether it's rising. So, hi moon is Daydream. I haven't seen you for a while. I thought you'd gone missing there. Glad to see you. So, I need to think of another question. I want you to name, this might be a difficult one. What's the name of the bottom right-hand star in Orion that we can see? You know the asterism of Orion. There's 7 stars with the belt stars. What's the name of the bottom right-hand star in Orion? It's a pretty bright one. It's one of the brightest stars in the sky. What is the name of the star at the bottom right of Orion? It's a pretty bright one. Paul's in. Anthony's in. Yeah. Paul thought Regal. Oh, that's a nice one. Regal. Very regal. Yeah. That's right. Dave. Call it Dave if you want. Yeah. Right. It is a very, very bright star. Right. Okay, so here's another one. Fairly, not too difficult. What is the brightest star apart from the sun that we can see from Earth? The brightest star, apart from the sun, of course, because the sun's a star, that we can see from Earth. So what's the brightest star we can see at night? Because during the day, we've got the sun. Paul Hill. You cannot be serious. No way. It is. It is serious, yeah. No, it's not. You know, I used to think before, I was one of those people that always used to think that the North Star was the brightest star. Sam M says Capella. Well, Capella certainly is a very, very bright star, but it's not one of the brightest. Someone says Alpha Centauri. Alpha Centauri is a bright star. I've seen that from the southern hemisphere, but it's not the brightest. Now, it is a relative brightness, what they call, or should I say, apparent. Sirius is no way the brightest star in our sky. It's no way the most powerful or the biggest. It just so happens to be close enough to us. It's around about 6 light years away, and it's pretty bright because of where it is. But if put it this way, if Betelgeuse was where Sirius is, well, I think we'd be dead probably. Because Betelgeuse is a massive, massive star. It is huge. Betelgeuse is massive. Typing in what you're saying on voice. Don't be cheeky. Oh, I've got another question for you. This one might be a little bit more difficult, but I have spoke about it in the past. Okay, right. We've all heard of light years. But what is the standard measurement of distance for stars, galactic objects, and that sort of thing in professional astronomy? Can you tell me? It's not the light year. Can anybody tell me what the standard measurement is? The name for the standard measurement of stars and galaxies and anything that's out there. Vega, yeah, that's it. Yeah, Vega is a good one. Ash says parsec. Ash is very clever. Yeah, parsec. Straight in there with parsec. Now, if you watch Star Trek or Star Wars, you'll often hear them talking about light years and things like that. Because light year it is. They do tend to use light year in textbooks and school books and that sort of thing because it's easy. But light year is more of a time than a measurement, whereas a parsec is an actual measurement, a distance measurement measured from the angle. A very, very tiny, tiny, tiny angle in the movement of background stars that they can measure how far stars are away just by looking at the parallax. It's very, very fine work. Very, very fine work to measure. You know that the star that has the largest angle of arc, and it's only 0.75 arc, and that is Alpha Centauri, or is it not Alpha Centauri? What's the closest star to Earth called? It's Proxima Centauri. So Proxima Centauri has the largest angle of arc, the biggest, and it's only 0.75 of an arc. It is tiny, 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 tiny. It is so hard to measure, and that's why they've sent Hipparchus up there. They sent the satellite Hipparchus. I think they sent Hipparchus. They've now sent up Gaia, and these satellites specifically look for those parallax. They measure parallax between stars, and that's how you get the parsec. Parallax second. Parsec stands for parallax seconds, and it is the professional standard way of measuring distances. Yeah, someone says they're all on Google. You'll be all looking at parsec. Well, you are learning, you know. This is the thing, you see. Parsnip says, Anthony Goodness says parsnip. So remember that. Parsec is the proper term to define distances, not light years. Light years is more to do with time. It's a time scale, and it's a little bit more kind of, you know, up in the air sort of thing, you know. So the parsec is an actual measured distance, and Gaia, the satellite Gaia, is up there measuring literally billions of stars all over the place, mapping the whole galaxy, and it's doing the parallax. Isn't there an exoplanet around Proxima? Yeah, I think there is, actually. I think there might be a couple, actually. Yeah. So I did have another question, and I've kind of forgotten what it was now. So So like I said, that's what parsec stands for. It stands for parallax second. So when we measure distance, when we measure, you know, like if you look up in the sky, we call that declination, and we call left and right, we call that right ascension. You can look into it. It gets quite deep, but basically it's like a big clock, and each little segment of the hemisphere is broken down into hours, minutes, and seconds. And it's your seconds, it's your little bits of those seconds. You know, you're breaking down small distances here. When you get down to seconds, you're getting really, really small. So, you know, when you're measuring planets and things like that, the planets are literally, oh, they're so tiny. You can't measure them in degrees, because a degree is quite big in terms of, you know, the sky. It's quite big, so you have to break it down into sections. It is quite complicated. Yeah. So there you go. I'll see if I can think of another question. Like I said, I'm doing these off the top of my head. 5.8 trillion miles is 1 light year. Imagine that. Yeah. Can anybody tell me roughly how many light years are in a parsec? Roughly. How many light years are in a parsec? It's more than one. So now, I will say that Proxima Centauri is around about, how far away is it? I think it's, well, I can't think of it. 3.6. Yep, you're all right. Yep. Crispy says 500. Is it 3.75? Yeah, you're close enough. 3.6 is about right. Yeah. It's amazing when you look into it. When you look into all these distances, when you think the vast distances that there are and I like to try and measure stars. I know how far some stars are away, but some stars are a little bit, you kind of read one article and it says it's so far away, and then you read another one, it says it's, you know, one article might say it's 500 light years away, and the other one will say 800, and you don't really know. I mean, all the stars of Orion tend to be a similar distance away. They tend to be in order of 500, roughly, light years away, something like that. I mean, there's no, I don't think they've got a definite answer on those, but it is, isn't it, Sheila? Yeah. But yeah, it's only really the closer stars, like Sirius and the North Star, we have a good idea of how far away those are. Vega, for instance, which is one of the brightest stars that we can see in the summer sky. If you look up in summer, you'll see Vega, no problem at all. In fact, if you go out in the morning, you might see it rising towards the east, because it'll be the brightest star in the east. I think that's around about 25 light years away. There's another star called Arcturus, which is a nice red star, and it kind of swings off the plough. So the handle of the plough comes round and it arcs to Arcturus. So if you follow the handle of the plough, it comes down to a star called Arcturus, and that's a very bright star as well, and that's around 37 light years away. Have you prepared a UFO vid yet? Yeah, well, I need to do that, don't I? I will do it, don't worry. Can't get my head around parsecs. Light years is easier to comprehend. Yeah, I think it is actually, Leanne. I think, to be honest, I think we're more used to light years because we're used to hearing about them so often, and they talk about them at school. They don't tend to talk about parsecs. It's like learning a metric system if you used to be imperial, isn't it? Or the other way around. So if you place Jupiter where our sun is, would it engulf our solar system? No. If you put Jupiter where the sun is, the sun would completely consume Jupiter, because the sun is absolutely massive. It is far, far bigger than Jupiter. Jupiter is almost like a failed star. It could have been a star. It could have been a star. It's that kind of planet. It's a gas giant. It could have, if it had got bigger, it could have turned into a star, but it's nowhere near as big as the sun. It is, I mean, Jupiter is massive. It is the next most dominant thing in the solar system after the sun, but it is minuscule compared to the sun. I think you could probably fit 1,000 How many? Oh, I don't know offhand, but if you look at a chart with Jupiter and you get to see the sun, I don't even know if they fit on the same chart because the sun is so massive. So we all know how tiny the Earth is compared to the sun, but and Jupiter's a lot bigger than the Earth. I know, I think you can fit 100 Earths inside the disk of Jupiter. That's how big Jupiter is, but it's still tiny compared to the sun because the sun is a star and stars are massive. They are gigantic stars. So there you go. I think I'm going to leave it there now. We're on our mark. We're up to 9 o'clock. I think we've done really well. Like I say, we've got the moon around at the moment, but it's a great time of year. When the moon moves out of the way in the evening sky, when it goes past full, we get a chance to see the Milky Way with Orion. Last chance this month before Orion disappears. I think Orion got into April. And then if you're up in the morning, have a look towards the east. I'm pointed behind me because that's towards the east where I am. You might just see the Milky Way rising in the morning from about 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock and maybe up until 5 o'clock at the latest. If you leave it to the later, it's better because you get to see it rise higher. 4 billion years. Okay, so we're now on 9 o'clock and that's it now. Thanks for joining. I'm now going to have a drink. I'm struggling here. My voice is not doing very well. Thanks, Lians. Thanks, Scott Tarples. Thanks, Mark Angus. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, everybody. It's been a busy day for me today, hasn't it? I will now have something to eat, I think, and a drink, because I am roasting. I think I'll turn this heating off this evening. Thanks from Los Angeles, says Joe O'Neill. Yeah, I hope to go back there. I really love the Griffith Observatory. The Griffith Observatory is the best observatory I have ever been to. It was absolutely amazing. I love the Griffith Observatory. Bye, Moonage Daydream. Hope to meet you in Blackpool one day, says Malk Angus. Yeah, I'd really love to get... Not very dark, of course, in Los Angeles there, but I do love... In fact, just before I go, this one's for... I think it's for Jay. I just want to show you a picture of the Griffith. I've got a picture on here. The Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles. Have I got it? Well, I've got that. There you are. Has anyone seen Terminator? The movie Terminator, where Arnie comes down, he gets beamed down to Earth. Well, and then those thugs go up to him and say, "Wash day tomorrow," and try to mug him. Well, that's where that happened. That's where it's filmed there on the Terminator. Yeah, so if you see that, that's where they actually filmed it. And by the way, you don't get any thugs around there. It's perfectly safe around there, if you ask me. It's not like it is on the movie. So there you go, that's it. Thanks for joining. I will see you again hopefully next week, and hopefully I'll have a video for you in a week. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks everyone for joining. And I will see, yes, that's it, Jay. Yeah, just got to see it. I'm just going off now. And I will see you hopefully next week.